The Radical. Fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome. Welcome to the Yaron Brook Show. Sunday, beautiful Sunday. Sunday afternoon. I hope everybody is having a fantastic weekend. Enjoying life. That's what this show is going to be about. It's going to be about why you should be focused on enjoying life and not on all the pain and misery and BS that exists out there in the world. We've done a lot of shows on that, so I figured let's change focus a little bit and talk about some of the good stuff that exists in the world and why you should be focusing on that more than you probably are. So take this as your pep talk for the week, your motivational talk for the week, and hopefully that'll work. I'm a little tired today. I don't know. I think I overdid in my workout this morning, and all I want to do is go to sleep. So help me out here. The way to help me out is to create more of a conversation than me just talking, because me just talking requires a lot more energy and a lot more creativity than I think I have. I've got my coffee, fourth coffee of the day, one more than I usually have. So an exciting show topic that doesn't require Valium. Alicia, do my shows usually require Valium to calm you down afterwards? I don't know. Anyway, so I need your help, and the help you can provide is basically, I think this will go better as conversations. So those of you here live, you can participate. You can engage. You can do that. The easiest way to do that, because then I don't have to follow everything, is using the super chat. $1, $2, whatever. Get your comments in, get your questions in, get your suggestions in, whatever. Use the super chat, and that'd be great. Yesterday we had an EOI event for the new intellectual. I hope all of you enjoyed it. I think it was inspiring. I think it was positive. You saw a lot of very successful people, a lot of people who are doing really, really, really phenomenal work. I hope all of that inspired all of you and gave you a bit of a sense that there is an upside. There is upside in the future, and the people are not just sitting on their hands, and that there is a whole movement out there that is trying and going to try to shape a better future. In terms of the coffee is not local coffee. This is Nespresso. We have an espresso machine, unbelievably convenient, really good coffee. I like my coffee different than my wife. So you have different pods for different types of coffee, and this is great. I like mine strong, black, with lots of coffee flavor, no sugar, nothing. My wife likes it a little weaker with a little bit of milk, so it's great, because that way each one of us can do their own thing. But coffee in Puerto Rico is very good, very good. All right, questions. Let's try to make the questions positive today. Let's try to have questions that are focused on positives, questions about, maybe even questions about art, questions about living, questions about career, questions about relationships, questions about love, questions about beauty, or we can also just do you can just comment and just use the super chat to support the show, and leave comments. Action Jackson reminds everybody to vote in the poll. I have no idea what he's talking about, but I understand somewhere there's a poll asking you what kind of shows you would like. The problem is, and this is a real problem with all polls, the poll is sorry, Action Jackson, but this poll is super biased. So I think 140 people have voted already. Half of you want more shows on philosophy and epistemology. I'm not a philosopher. I'm not an epistemologist. When I bring on a philosopher and epistemologist, the viewership drops significantly. So, the hardcore people watching the show want a lot of philosophy and epistemology, but then they don't share the show, and it doesn't do anywhere near as well on all the algorithms and everything else than the politics shows go. So I don't know what to make of polls, but please vote. And vote what you really think, and then at least that'll be another data point for us to consider. And Action Jackson didn't list capitalism or economics, and I don't know why, but you should have. Economics should have been listed. History should have been listed. Middle East, somebody mentioned the Middle East. So. What I really think needs to happen is we need to get some of our objectivist philosophers to have YouTube shows, right? We need to get Greg Salmieri, or we need to get Anka Gate, or we need to get, I don't know, other philosophers. Maybe if you're listening out there, philosopher guys, you need a podcast. There is a real demand for somebody to do a show on philosophy, on maybe issues in modern philosophy, or maybe issues in classic philosophy and objectivist philosophy and how we address them. I think that would be a great show, and I think it would really build a following. So I'd like to encourage everybody to, not everybody, I'd like to encourage the objectivist philosophers to start Jason Rines. Where's Jason Rines? Jason Rines should start a podcast YouTube channel on philosophy, and that would be really, really cool and really interesting. And I think we'd all benefit from that. I'd benefit from it. You'd benefit from it, and all the people answering the survey who wants more philosophy and epistemology would get it somewhere else, and still come to my show, because what you get from my show you can't get anywhere else. No, with all due respect, Ian, we could do better than Charles too. And I think we could build, whoever did it could build a much bigger audience than Charles ever could. But yes, we definitely need, Brad Thompson. Brad, you need to start your own show. Nathan here says he'd love to have you do a history political science podcast. Come on, Brad. Brad Thompson will be on my show. I've got him scheduled for later in March, so he'll definitely be on my show to talk about Bronze Age perverts, and we'll talk about other stuff, I'm sure, but at least we'll talk about Bronze Age perverts and other things. But yeah, let's get more objectivists. Let's get more objectivist intellectuals. Don Watkins does a great show. But let's get some of the philosophers. Let's get pressure. Come on, guys. Put some pressure on. Send emails, tweet, all the philosophers, and get them to do podcasts. I really think it'll make a huge difference. I really think they could build big audiences. And we could start by doing... Are you guys on Clubhouse? I wonder how many of you are on Clubhouse. If you're on Clubhouse, follow me in Clubhouse. If you're not on Clubhouse, get on Clubhouse. If you don't have an iPhone and therefore can't be on Clubhouse, then get an iPhone and get a Clubhouse. What the hell? You don't need funding for podcasts. Podcasts, you start a Patreon or you do something like that. Podcasts can easily, provide their own funding and create their own funding. And to do a podcast doesn't cost you anything. It's basically, other than the equipment, to set it all up. And even that is pretty cheap these days. It's pretty cheap. So we should probably do something on Clubhouse. So I'm thinking of doing something on Clubhouse, maybe starting like a weekly thing on Clubhouse. I don't know exactly how to do it. Maybe Jonathan. Where's Jonathan? Jonathan was here. Jonathan, are you still around? Jonathan Honing was here. He was on Clubhouse like 10 minutes ago. I saw him on Clubhouse. I think Jonathan manages to do more than one of these social media podcast type things at a time. So he has this amazing ability to do that. So maybe Jonathan and I should do a Clubhouse thing. just kind of a conversation on Clubhouse and just see where it goes. But we need a sexy title that will attract, because what I really want Clubhouse for is to gain new people, is to find new people. So what you need is kind of a sexy title or a sexy name for the program, so that people will just drop in and then hopefully stay because it's interesting. So let me know, Jonathan, if you want to do something like that. If you guys have ideas on what we could do in Clubhouse, on titles, on programs, programmatic stuff, what we could do in Clubhouse, would love to hear that. I think Clubhouse could be a good place to find new people. I'll definitely do a Clubhouse session with Lex Friedman at some point. I think he said after March 8th. March 8th is tomorrow. So sometime in the next couple of weeks, I'm hoping to do something with Lex on Clubhouse. All right, I see people are starting to ask questions. Yeah, feel free, whatever dollar amount you can, to make a comment or ask a question on the Super Chat. Let's try to make this about something positive. Let's try to make this more optimistic and more positive. And so far, we've gone 10 minutes and just been chatting without really saying anything. All right, so let's get into the topic, and the topic really is this idea of rational optimism. And this came up. It really struck me because yesterday I thought was a really fabulous event. I thought ultimately it was an Ayn Rand Institute event about kind of the new intellectual and the role of the new intellectual. And it was a really good event and quite inspiring, and a lot of people involved, anywhere from John Allison to Alex Epstein to Onkar Ghate and Tara Smith and a bunch of others, about all the different work that they are doing as intellectuals to promote good ideas. And generally it's a good idea, a great program and very positive. And then in the breakout session, there was a breakout session at the very end, and you could go to rooms with different people, and some people came to my room. Not many, because I think that you guys are overexposed to me. I mean, there's so much Yaron Brook out there that I think it's a good idea for you to kind of get to know some of the other intellectuals. If you have an opportunity, you get to know me. You kind of interact with me all the time. But like the first question out of the bat was something about, and this is not meant to criticize anybody, but the first question out of the bat was, do I regret not encouraging people to vote for for Trump? Now I keep confusing between Trump and Obama. And now that Biden's president and all the bad things that he's done, it's like I just wanted to pull my hair out. Right? Let's not just focus on politics. And let me just say, there's almost nothing good to talk about in politics, other than it's not as bad as it could be. That's the most optimistic, best thing I could say about the politics. It's not as bad as it might be. And long term, it's not as bad as it could be. Same as short term. But hell, it's bad. So if we're going to be optimistic, then we need to look outside of politics. But generally, I think we should be living outside of politics. If you're a curious person, then you're interested in the world. You're interested in what is going on. You're interested in ideas. You're interested in science. You're interested in engineering. You're interested in what is happening in the world. And politics is just one aspect of that. And while politics is becoming a bigger and bigger impact on all of our lives, a bigger and bigger influence on all of our lives, there's still 90% of human existence and human interaction and human events that are outside of politics. Now, granted, some of that is unbelievably corrupt as well, anything from cancel culture and all the stuff that you read about constantly. So part of, I think, what we all should be doing and what we all should be engaging with and we all should do on a regular basis, right, is look for the positives. Look for the places where human achievement is still valued. Look for those realms in life that are interesting, that are stimulating, and that provide us with joy and happiness and pleasure. And at the end of the day, minimize engagement with those things that don't. You don't have a duty to know every little nuance and intricacy about what's going on in the world of politics, or every last element of what's happening at American universities with critical race theory or cancel culture or anything like that. I mean, it's good generally to know what's going on in the world because it's important. It's kind of survival. You need to adjust yourself and you need to be careful not to tread on certain toes. And maybe ultimately you need to know how you want to vote in the future and things like that. But too many of us land up being obsessed by that and being focused almost exclusively on that. And it's just not healthy. And it doesn't provide any benefit to your actual life unless you are going to become, engaged in the intellectual battle of our time. And even then, you've got to do it to the extent that you need to do it in order to fight. And the rest of the time, you should focus on the good. And luckily, we do not live in the Dark Ages. Luckily, you do not have to spend every moment of your waking life focused on, farming the land and manual labor and physical labor just to barely survive. The beauty of living when we live today, the beauty of living in the 21st century, is we all have immense amounts of time. We all have we have many, many options in terms of what we do with our life and in our life. We have immense career options, travel options, not so much under COVID, aesthetic options, options with regard to how much wealth, how much focus we want to put on accumulating wealth, options with regard to friendship, options with regard to love, or at least the pursuit of friendship and the pursuit of love. There's so many things we could be doing with our time and should be doing with our time if our purpose is to live a good life, is to live a productive life, is to enjoy our life, is to have pleasure in our life, to flourish, to succeed as a human being. So, I would rather seeing me, seeing all of us, spend more time reading about the latest science, at least the good parts of the science. I mean, one of the most amazing things to come out of last year, and one of the things that should result in immense optimism, I think, about the future, is, for example, this mRNA technology, which is technology that will not only provide vaccines for COVID, and is providing vaccines for COVID, but and can be modified quickly and easily in order to provide vaccines for the iterations, different genetic iterations that happen with COVID. It is now a vaccine technology that will be able to, they're talking about now a vaccine for malaria. They're talking about vaccines for other diseases that we don't have vaccines for, other viruses. But they're also talking about, and they've been trying to do this for many years, but I think now with the proof of concept that is mRNA, they're looking at cancer treatments using mRNA. And their whole world is opened up in terms of pharmaceuticals that is going to make our lives better, that has the real potential, right? Real potential to extend our life and increase the quality of our life dramatically. Brad wants a vaccine for tribalism. If only, right? If only. But that's the thing about tribalism and all these things. Even if there was a vaccine, you wouldn't want it. Right? Because bad ideas, even if we eliminated one set, but we didn't replace them with good ideas, would just morph into something else. And I know you're joking, so would just morph into something else. That's the thing about free will. The kind of sucky thing about free will, right? You can't just vaccinate people against bad ideas. Because if the wrong thinking led them to this particular bad idea, then they'll just replace this bad idea with another bad idea. And to eliminate free will, in order to eliminate tribalism, is just not worth it. That's throwing out the baby with the bathwater, and actually would set us back and set us in negative territory. So I love reading about science, particularly biology, because I think there's a lot in biology that is is still healthy, and there's a huge amount we don't know, and a huge and interesting, fascinating new discoveries and evolutions, and with regard to evolution, for example, huge, interesting things happening with regard to the application, biology. I love technology, and you guys know this, but I love technology, and and it's fascinating to me to watch as the world culturally and politically descends into, what did I call it in 2009? Somebody's quoting me here. Into a insane world, the worst the world has ever been, as the world descends into that kind of insanity. There are people out there who don't give a damn. And the way it's reflected that they don't give a damn is they go out there and they start companies, and they come up with great new ideas, and they raise capital, and they hire people, and they fail, and they don't care about failing. They start up again, and they raise more capital, and the venture capitalists don't care about the failing, and they go start more companies, and they have better ideas, and they succeed, and they build, and they create, and they make, and it's a wonder. It's a wonder. I mean, I think one of the reasons objectivism doesn't catch on in places like Silicon Valley is because we're so pessimistic and dark. When a place like Silicon Valley is dominated by, we can fix that, we can change that, we can modify that, we can build something, we can make life better, we can make the world better, we can do it. And they make money at it every single day, and they literally do it. I mean the individuals involved, right? In spite of their leftist politics, they're changing the world for the better every single day. They're innovating, they're building, they're thinking big thoughts, they're planning the invasion of Mars, not the invasion of Mars, the settlement of Mars. I mean, that's the right kind of attitude to have. And granted, I don't always have that, and I'll address this question about my pessimism in 2019. I don't always have that, but the right attitude should be, and somebody says, why is Harari so popular in Silicon Valley? He's popular because they can't actually follow through with it intellectually, but that's the way they live. That's the way they live. They live as if the world is changeable. They live They act as if the world can be improved. So 700 says he doesn't get it. It seems contradictory. What does? So tell me what. Oh, the fact that they like Harari. Yes. What you get is people, and this is typical of Silicon Valley. What you get is people who have a set of ideas that they philosophize about. They philosophize about. And they, claim that they support. And they promote by promoting people like Harari and by promoting politicians on the left. But then they live their lives as if that's completely irrelevant. They completely are compartmentalized. Right? So what you find in Silicon Valley is when they look at objectivism, what they see is we're telling them the world is going to hell and what we need is more freedom to do, from their perspective, what they do anyway, which is produce. And even Harari, they invite him, they lunch him, they support him, they have him give talks, they cheer, they give him standing ovations, and then they ignore everything that he says and go back to work. But deep down, they are philosophically, they are completely corrupt. But they don't live that corruption. Objectivists tend to be philosophically fine, correct. And many of them live kind of depressing kinds of lives. They don't maximize their well-being. They don't live the best life that they can. They don't produce. They don't create. They don't build. They don't change the world. What I want you to try to live the best life you can live, given the context of the world that exists today. It exists. What exists, exists. There's nothing you can do about that. Or there is something you can do about it, but it's going to be hard and it's going to take a long time and you won't see it in this life. But live the best life that you can live given the context, given the world which you have, which you're born into, and which changing is going to take a long time. And in the meantime, what are you going to do? Because as I say many times on the show, you're not going to get the minutes, the hours, the days that you've wasted back. They're gone. You only live once. You only live once. And if you look at what's the innovations, I'm inspired. I love reading about technology. I love reading about this stuff. I love seeing people create wealth and build fortunes and create technology and build technology, which, whether I use it or not, is just making the world better. I just read that one of these SPACs, and we can get into SPACs if you're interested in what a SPAC is, has just invested, just bought a private company. So by using a SPAC, the company now is public. That is basically going to provide flying car service. So flying taxi service. So it's basically like a giant drone, like a taxi. You'll be able to book it. It'll come. It'll land wherever. You'll get in. It'll rise up. And it'll fly wherever you need to go. It's not going to be long distances, but that's the whole point of a taxi. So if you want to go from Orange County to LA, which can, in a pre-COVID world where there's a lot of traffic, can take 2 hours, this will take you like half an hour. Now, that is really cool. And that has the potential to marginally, at the margin, improve my life significantly. I can now go and do things in LA, enjoy certain benefits LA has if I lived in Southern California, which I don't. Right? So it's flying cars, yes. I mean, think about why can't you do a flying car? Think about the drones, they're like little helicopters. Think about the drones that are flying all over the place. Why can't you make one big enough that people can sit in and with enough lift to carry you? Right? So I think there's just immersing yourself and enjoying and benefiting and appreciating what we have. I mean, my business today, given COVID, I don't go and travel around the world to do meetings. I don't travel around the world to give talks, seminars. Instead, I do this. And the technology that makes this possible is new, very new. And that is, it's stunning. And it makes me feel good. And it gives me confidence in what? In human beings. Some person used his mind to create these tools that I am using regularly and that are enhancing my life significantly, enhancing your life significantly, making the world a better place. And it's amazing. It's amazing. I live, because we still live in a relatively free country, I'm able to live in a beautiful place, right on the ocean, in a place where the sun is shining most days, where people are basically friendly. They're incredibly productive people who have opened restaurants that serve me amazing food at a relatively low cost. I can, in normal times, I can travel pretty much anywhere in the world at a pretty reasonable cost, go and see anything I really want. A few places I avoid, but other than that, people who love the cold can live in the cold. You don't like cold, you get in your car, you drive somewhere, you move to another city, you live in a warm climate. I mean, the world is a pretty amazing place if you take your life seriously and engage in activity to enhance your life. For most of us, not everybody, but for most of us, there are a wide variety of careers, wide open for all of us. For most of us, we can engage in a career and deal with other rational people, at least within the context of the career, and build something and make something and enjoy it. Now, no question, if the world was an objectivist world, all of that would be 100 times better, 1,000 times better, 1,000,000 times better, I don't know. But it's not zero now. It's certainly not negative now. You can still do a lot with your life today. Alan says we should have a book fest. We should all get together for a big party with some good old Puerto Rican food. Yeah. Come over to Puerto Rico. I know some of you are listening in Puerto Rico, but come on to Puerto Rico. And we should do a big party at one of the nice restaurants in town. I'm all for that. But you can still go find work that is productive, that is engaging, that is challenging, that is going to stimulate your mind, and do it. You can still find good people who you can be friends with, good people that you can have long-term relationships with, good people that you can fall in love with. The world is not so bleak that there are no good people out there for you to interact with. They're still there. You can still invest your money. I mean, look at the stock market. You can still invest your money and do fairly well. Now, yes, there's inflation and who knows what's going to happen next, and there might be a crash. But so far, over the last, since the Great Depression, if you just held stocks and waited the crisis out, you've done phenomenally well. Now, maybe there's a crisis ahead of us where you won't be able to recover from. I don't know. But what I do know is living in fear of that is unbelievably destructive to your ability to be happy today. And since you don't know that that end of world is heading our way, you know, you should do something to protect yourself, but forget about it and live. Surround yourself, as I've said often, surround yourself with beauty. It's completely in your control. Beautiful things exist in the world we live in. Beautiful things are all around us, from sculptures and paintings to nice furniture and flowers, in that case, fake flowers, but flowers, to just all kinds of just aesthetically nice items, to the home you live in, to at whatever level. I mean, when I had no money, I would basically tape, like here, tape posters to the wall. That's cheap. That's like $15. Anybody could do that. Just find things that you really love and put them on the wall. Thank you, Noel. Thank you, Alan. Alan's supporting Brookfest, and Noel just supporting my preaching on. Surround yourself with beautiful things. I mean, when you come to my house, if you ever come to my house, you'll see sculpture everywhere, paintings everywhere, furniture that I like, just pretty things, any way I can. Things that inspire, things that are deeply meaningful, and things that are just pretty. And do things, engage in activities that you love. Engage in activities that you enjoy. If you love sports, engage in sports. If you love going to the theater and going to listen to music, go do that. You know, if you love going to the beach, go to the beach. If you like kayaking, kayak. Just act on your values. Pursue your values. Do the things that bring you pleasure, that bring you joy, that bring you happiness. Get your nose out of the newspaper. Stop. And I say this for you, stop watching television news. Take the hours that you gain by doing that and go do something fun. Fun. And fun doesn't mean, somebody asked me about drinking, doesn't mean drinking yourself into a stupor. Fun means finding something that is consistent with your values, that you pursue, that you enjoy, that you get pleasure from. Right? And don't worry about what other people think. Don't worry about what I think. Put up beautiful things and paintings and stuff that you like. Not that your Ron likes. Not that your mother likes. Not that are consistent with objectivism or whatever. Stuff that you like, and that'll change over time. I wouldn't put up today what I put up in my 20s, and my next apartment will have slightly different things than what I have today, and you know. Read. There's a lost art. Read. Wijami says, get a sauna. Ask Joe. I don't know what Joe we're talking about. I don't have a sauna. Not interested in saunas. But get a sauna if that's what you like. Oh, my God. They want to get me in trouble here. Again, find your values. And most importantly, get a job that you love. Get a job where you're pushing yourself, where you're challenging yourself, that is interesting to you, where you're enjoying the work that you do and you enjoy the people you're around. And if you don't have that job, go find it. And here's the thing. I've talked about this in the past. I'll just say it again because it cannot be emphasized enough. Be a risk taker. Be a risk taker. Don't, to achieve things, you have to take risk. To achieve things, you have to do things you haven't done before. To achieve things, you have to do things that you're not sure how they'll turn out. That's true in relationships. That's true in love. That's true in career. Be a risk taker. I mean, not a stupid risk taker. You don't have to jump out of airplanes. Although, I mean, it's fairly low risk. So assuming you've got a parachute, of course, it's fairly low risk. So fine. I would never do it, but you can. But more importantly, be a risk taker in your career. Be a risk taker with your job. Be a risk taker with your relationships. Be a risk taker with the kind of vacations you choose. Choose a vacation to go somewhere unexpected. So the way to be optimistic about the future, rationally optimistic about the future, is to focus on yourself. Is to take egoism seriously. Is to take your values seriously and pursue them. And to recognize that we still, and I don't know how long this will last, but again, there's little you are going to be able to do about it in the short run. Recognize that you have little control over the political environment, the world. You can support people like me. You can support the Iron Man Institute. You can support your values for fighting for a better world. And in the meantime, go have a good life. Go live the best life that you can be. And if you do that, you can be, that's how you're going to gain that optimism. I mean, Nick says, have you seen the pictures from Perseverance, Mars rover? Yeah, some of them. I mean, think about that. In spite of all the irrationality in the world, in spite of the fact that Biden is president, in spite of the fact that Trump was president, in spite of all the rest of the nonsense, we've managed, some scientists, engineers, have managed to land a rover on Mars to take photos and send them back to Earth. And to actually do some pretty amazing technology, pretty amazing science, pretty amazing engineering. It's awesome. It's cool. It's exciting. It's the best of our capacities, of our abilities. We should be celebrating that and enjoying that. Now, that doesn't have a huge impact on my life day to day. So I'm not one who's obsesses about the space. I'm not as interested in space as some other people. I like stuff that I can actually use, stuff that's around here. And there are so many nice, cool, interesting advancements, improvements to our lives that are worth focusing on, engaging with, figuring out if you can use, how to use them. Do that. And if you do that, you will find yourself being more optimistic. Because you will be engaging in those parts of the world that are moving us forward instead of backwards, that are improving our lives instead of hurting our lives. And all the injustices and all the really bad stuff that continues to happen and will continue to happen and is out there, it's still important. But its importance in your life will recede, and you'll be able to focus on the things that bring you joy. Find music you love. Find art that you love. Just surround yourself with the things that you love. And don't let it go too deep. The bad stuff out there. And the way to fight for the future is to live the best life that you can live. The way to make the culture better is to live a great life. And if enough of us do that, and if we project that to our neighbors, and if they ask, we tell them why and how we do it, and if we hand out copies of Atlas Shrugged maybe to some people that we think will be impacted by it, and if we engage in support for those people who are intellectually fighting the battle, the philosophers, the intellectuals, the public intellectuals, the people out there who have a microphone or write books or engaged in the cultural fight, and we support them as part of our fighting for the future, and we speak up, and we make our views known. And yes, there's risk in that too. You could be canceled. But what, are you going to live in fear? Screw fear. You got to be out there. You got to say what you believe. You got to stand for the truth. And you got to live your life to the fullest. And maybe that'll cause some hard times. Remember, walk in the quarry. But we still live in a world where most of us can achieve our values and can succeed. So don't let it go. Don't let your life go. Don't let your love of your life go. Right? Live it. All right. Let's do some of these questions. I don't think a parent's protectionism. I don't know what parents' protectionism means. Where do we draw the line with property rights? I don't understand the question. If whoever asked that question can clarify, that would be helpful, because I know it was a $20 question, so I want to answer it, but I just don't. I mean, So I don't know what you mean by that. Is the question about property rights related to parenting? A patent's protectionism. Okay, that's better. It says parents. A patent's protectionism, no. Patents are recognition of property rights. And if you are interested in the whole patent and copyright question, Ayn Rand has an essay on that in Capitalism, Not Known Ideal, in the book, Patents and Copyrights. You can also follow the work of Adam Mossoff, and maybe we can do a whole show on patents and copyrights, and you guys can ask whatever questions you might have on that. I can bring Adam on the show. But Adam Mossoff from George Mason University is very good in these issues. But no, patents are just recognition that property, the origins of property are ideas. The origins of property are inventions, and inventions are products of the mind. And yeah, Adam was a panelist on yesterday's conference, those of you who attended the conference. And what you're protecting is the property, the physical manifestation of the idea that was created by somebody. Whether it's a book they wrote, copyright, or whether it's a invention that they have, and the plan, the physical manifestation of that invention. You don't copyright the ideas behind the invention, you copyright the invention itself. So they're not protectionism, they're recognition of property rights. And they're a special property right. In that sense, they have a life, they're not forever. And they have particularities in terms of the way we legally protect them. But they're no different in fundamental philosophical terms than any other protection of property rights. Where do we draw the line with property rights? I don't know. I mean, if you have produced something, if you've created something, then it is yours, right? Assuming nobody else has a claim, you haven't written a contract that gives it to somebody else, then it is yours. And we don't draw a line with property rights. We grant you the right to the thing that you produced, the thing that you created. So if you want more on that question, you're going to have to develop the question more, ask in more detail. let's see. I'm doing the $20 or more questions first, and free for us to ask any questions at any amount, but the questions that are $20 or more get priority. And of course, one way to support the show is to use the super chat feature just to make a contribution to the show. You don't even have to ask a question. And don't forget, before you leave, because I know people come and go and they on and off the show, please like the show if you like it before you leave. That really helps with the algorithms and everything else. And please share the show. If you like the show, if you think the show is of value and would be of value to other people, please like it on Twitter or Facebook, or share it, or do stuff with it. I mean, that's part of what you can do to fight for the future, is help promote ideas that you believe in. Help promote intellectuals that you support, that you think their ideas will have an impact on the world. And with technology and with social media, you have the potential to do that. Brad imagines me driving a nuclear-powered luxury sedan. I like that image. I like that image a lot. I would love to be driving a nuclear-powered luxury sedan that goes really, really fast, just like it sounds, because it's nuclear-powered. So it goes really fast. I like fast cars. Although I don't have one because I live in Puerto Rico and there's no way to drive fast cars. So one of my goals is, at least one vacation a year would be a vacation to a place where I can rent a really fast car and drive it really fast. That's one of my goals. Let's see. No, I don't want to fly. I'm not a flying guy. I don't want to jump out of airplanes. I have the fear of heights thing, so I'm not interested in flying cars. I just want a fast car. Like in Germany, to go to the highways in Germany and just put that pedal down. Get a M5 or RS5, an Audi RS5, and just crush it. That would be fun. What kind of workouts do you do? Man, at home or at the gym? So I've changed my workout regime in the last few years because my preferred workout is not available in Puerto Rico. I used to do what's called, high-intensity weightlifting, kind of super slow high-intensity weightlifting, which means lifting very heavy weights very slowly with special machines, weightlifting machines, one-on-one with a one-on-one trainer. And I used to do that in California, and I had a trainer in California, but that is not available in Puerto Rico. Plus, the food here is really good, so I found that I was putting on weight. So I try to do something every day. My regime right now here's my regime right now. I just do kind of almost leisurely, but a walk 3 times a week for about an hour, so about 3 miles. Along the coast here, and great views, and I do that partially as a means to wind down, as kind of a means of relaxation, and partially as exercise, because I think moving is good, just generally moving. So that's 3 times a week. 3 times a week, I do elliptical, a pretty intense 30-minute workout on the elliptical, where I try to get my heart rate up as high as I can get it. So basically what I do is I use a lot of friction. So what do you call it? You change the intensity of it. So I start at like 10, and every minute I go up 1 until I reach 25 in terms of which is the highest the machine will go. And then I go down. So that works out to be down back to 10, and that works out to be 31 minutes. And that, my heart rate, resistance, thank you. Resistance is the word I was looking for. So I increase the resistance, high resistance, and that both, I think, builds muscle and gets my heart really pumping as compared to the walk, which doesn't get my heart pumping at all. And then in addition to that, before I go on the elliptical, I will typically do a bunch of push-ups. Sometimes I will do what I call super slow push-ups. You should try this, see how many you can do. Basically 10 seconds, a proper push-up where you go all the way down, your nose should touch the ground. And if you have a bit of a belly, it should touch the ground. 10 seconds down and 10 seconds up, right? 10 seconds down, 10 seconds up. And see how many you can do. If you can do 6 or 7, you're in good shape. If you can do 6 or 7 push-ups like that, I think you're in good shape. But 10 seconds down, 10 seconds up. So what you want to be is under, and then the last one, when you push up, you can't move. You go to failure, right? You got to go to failure. Hold it at the point of failure for as long as you can. Hopefully 10 seconds, right? That is really good for chest, for arms, for shoulders. That is really good for all of that. Then I'll do some free weights. I'll pick up some free weights. So free weights, push-ups, all of that, plus treadmill. That's 3 times a week. Walking 3 times a week, and then twice a week I do Pilates. So I do it with my wife, and we've got a trainer, and I enjoy Pilates. We've been doing it for 3 years now. It's really good. It's excellent for my back. Those of you who don't know, I have a really bad back. And my back, I've had 3 surgeries on my back. Pilates has been really good for my back because it involves strengthening your core while stretching your muscles. And that combination seems to be really, really good if you've got a bad knee, if you've got a bad back, if you've got anything like that. So that was good. That's what I do. So I work out 3, 6, 8 times a week, right, overall. During COVID, I did a lot of, with bands, a lot of stuff with bands because the gym in the building was closed. I think the point is to move and move often, particularly as you get older, and I'm getting older, to move often. And I think the other really, really important thing is to lift weights, to do things that strengthen muscle. So just running, I don't think is enough. I think you need to do some upper body and to really lift weights. And so I think the combination of, strengthening muscles, which Pilates does, which the free weights do, with movement and with is crucial. And then, if you're going to lift weights, if you lift weights and you challenge yourself on the weightlifting, then your heart is really going to get pumping. And, so my heart rate will get really, really high if I do the push-ups. And, today was pathetic actually, because I do a lot of push-ups. So today I did 15 push-ups, then 14 push-ups, then 13 push-ups, then 12 push-ups. But sometimes I can go all the way down to 1. But today, I think I've been doing too many push-ups and my muscles are fatigued, so I couldn't get as many push-ups as I want done. So anyway, that's my workout. Ideally, I could do exercise videos. Would you pay for me to do exercise videos? I mean, we could do that. Maybe that's a way I can supplement my income. Yeah, I mean, I also try to eat a really healthy diet. So, and what for me a healthy diet means, again, I'm not claiming I know any of the stuff. The same with exercise. I'm sure there are better exercise regimes. Generally, I think I probably don't give my body enough rest time. I like I like my regime in California where you do, where you only exercise like twice a week, but you do it very intensely. I would combine that with a lot more walking, but doing heavy weights, slow, getting your heart really going, like high-intensity workouts. I'm a big fan of high-intensity workouts, particularly when you're young. Do as many high-intensity workouts as you can, right? Travis says he did 40 push-ups with his Johnson & Johnson vaccine symptoms. Wow, you got the Johnson & Johnson vaccine already. That's great. 40 push-ups is good. Like, I don't know how old you are, Travis. So I don't think I can do, and it kind of bugs me, I don't think I can do 40. I think I could probably do mid-30s straight. If I've got a couple of days of rest for those muscles, I could probably do mid-30s straight. I want to do I want to do 40. I want to get to 40. But the super slow ones will really test just how strong you are, whereas the 40 is testing your stamina, the muscle stamina. So try the super slow and let me know how many you do of the super slow. But I'm curious how old you are that you did. You're 32. Yeah, when I was 32, I mean, when I was 20, I could do 60 push-ups. And for a long time, I could do 60 push-ups on a good day. So when I was younger, 60 was pretty standard. And I could do in a workout, I think at my peak, I could do over 200 push-ups in a given workout. I once did straight 1,200 sit-ups, but full sit-ups where you completely sit up and back, Probably screwed up my back because of that. But anyway, in terms of diet, I would say for those of you at any age, really, cut out sugar. I don't eat sugar unless it's in the food already, unless it's in the food already, and unless it's in the sauces the restaurateur provides. But I don't eat desserts, almost never. Once in a while I will, but I don't. I try to avoid desserts. I don't eat pasta. I don't eat pizza. I don't eat simple carbs. I don't eat potatoes. So I've really driven out my simple carbs. I have for 16, 17 years now. I eat a lot of protein, a lot of nuts, a lot of healthy fats, and red meat, and everything else. We should do a Yaron Brook Show push-up contest. I like that. But it has to be super slow. It has to be a super slow push-up contest, and we can do it on video. We can do it on Zoom, and we could have everybody have their cameras on. Make sure nobody's cheating, because I know how many of you guys would cheat if we just let you do it like this. I don't quite do paleo, and I certainly don't like calling it paleo because I don't believe in the whole mythology of paleo, and paleo became a religion. And I started doing this diet before paleo became paleo. I read a book about the South Beach diets in the early 2000s, and basically I needed to lose some weight and went on the South Beach diet and kind of liked it and stuck with it, the kind of the more rigid regime of the South Beach diet. And it turned out that that's very similar to paleo, but not completely similar to paleo. But I don't believe in the paleo, the kind of the whole ideology surrounding paleo. But yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting stuff out there. There's a lot of interesting things about that functional medicine has to teach us. There's a lot of need for more integrative medicine. There's a lot of things that are crucial. Wanda Freeman says greens, onions, mushrooms, berries, seeds, and nuts. I eat a lot of nuts. I eat a lot of seeds. Berries, when they're available in Puerto Rico, it's hard to get good berries. So I don't eat a lot of berries, unfortunately. I love berries. And in California, I eat huge amounts of berries. I also used to eat, why am I talking about what I'm eating? Mushrooms, when I can get them and cook them. I don't cook, so onions and greens would be good, but I end up not eating a lot of greens again because of where I am. Beans, so, but I eat some beans. All right. Let's see. Other questions other than what I eat. All right, don't forget to use the super chat. Ask questions, support the show. If there are any people out there who are so inclined, this is a great way to support the show with significant dollars. Follow up on your last show. Reading OPA. I can only manage 5 pages a day because there's a lot to digest. Yes, 5 pages a day is good. I'm rationally optimistic because I'm building the tools to fight for my future. Excellent. Exactly the right kind of attitude. Changing one mind at a time. Exactly. So, and I should have said this earlier, one of the things you want to do in order to be rationally optimistic is build up your tools, build up your skill set to be really good, to be really competent. Competent at living, competent with your career, competent with whatever you choose to actually do. So that no matter what reality throws at you, you can survive, you can live, you can do well. So study, learn, engage with new material, learn new things, read about new stuff. Take OPA, for example, Objectivism, the Philosophy of Ayn Rand by Leonard Peikoff, a must-read for anybody who wants the skill set to live a great life. Really, a must-read. 5 pages a day is good. And think about it. Focus. Concentrate. Somebody's asking who I'm voting in the current Israeli election. I'm not voting. I don't live in Israel. I wouldn't go back to Israel to vote. Not important enough. And I would never vote for Netanyahu. If I did vote. So I don't know who I'd vote for right now. I'm not following which one of the parties I would vote for. I'd vote for somebody, but I wouldn't vote for Netanyahu. When I did vote in Israel, the last time I voted in Israel was in the 1980s. I voted twice for what was then a party called Atzmaut, Independence, and it was kind of what you would call a small L libertarian political party, and never made it into the Israeli parliament, but I voted for them twice. All right, so yes, read OPA. Read OPA to build up your skill set so that you can live the best life that you can live. What is your greatest challenge in maintaining your standard of living as you get older? Well, it's mainly making enough money so that I can not only live the kind of life I want to live, which is expensive. I don't live a cheap life. And save enough money so that, if I won't be able to work at one point, or if for whatever reason work dries up, I can maintain my quality of life. Or if I drop dead, my wife can continue to live a good life. So it's the combination of making enough to live off of plus saving enough to be able to not have to worry about money ever again. And my goal is to make enough money that I don't have to worry and I was about money ever. And I have to say I was on that path, and then 2020 hit, and 2020 has set me back by a whole year in terms of my plan to make enough money to, by probably more than a year, by probably a couple of years, in order to be in a position where I don't have to, I don't care about work for money because I've got enough money that I don't need it. For now, I need to work. I need to work to maintain my lifestyle and to save money. I need to work and save and continue investing, right? And if you've got a question about investing, or if you've got a question about saving, the Super Chat is available for you. Yes, I want to be, theoretically, I could be financially independent right now if I was willing to lower my life, my standard of living, but I'm not willing to. I live at a high standard of living. I spend a lot of money on an annual basis, and I have every intention to keep it that way for the rest of my life. Wanda Freeman says, I owe, it's off to work I go. Yeah, I lived for a long time as a young person. I lived on debt, and I don't mind living on debt, and I'm just now, taking on a massive mortgage. I don't mind taking on debt as long as I know I can pay for it, and as long as I have a strong belief that I will be able to pay for it in the future. I'm not a Dave Ramsey kind of guy. I don't agree with Dave Ramsey or with his financial advice. I agree with Dave Ramsey's financial advice for some people, but it's not the way I've lived my life. It's not the way I intend to live my life. It's not the way I think many of you should live your lives. So Dave Ramsey's good for particular type of lifestyle, particular type of person, primarily people who are generally irresponsible, generally have mediocre futures. But if you have a great future, if you believe that you're going to do well in the future, why not take on debt? Yeah, I'm sure he's helped a lot of people grow their net worth, but has he helped people achieve happiness? Has he helped people live the best life that they could live? I could have started saving when I was in my, I don't know, in my 30s. But why? I enjoyed spending it. Right? And I did. I only started saving money really in my 40s and only started saving significant money, I don't know, from my mid to late 40s. So it's, you know, it really depends on your risk preference. It really depends, right? Financial discipline is good for some people. And what is the discipline? I was very financially disciplined. But I was also a risk taker. And some people thrive on risk and other people don't thrive on risk. But I think that generally you should, if you're an ambitious person, you should be a risk taker. And a risk taker means starting businesses and failing. So I started a business in 1993, failed in 1994, and I had $50,000 of credit card debt. I was making $65,000 a year at the time with $50,000 of debt. And I didn't lose one night of sleep over that. And I figured out ways to minimize the cost of the debt, and I figured out ways to make a little bit more money on the side, and I figured out ways to pay back the debt. And I've always taken on mortgages, usually for houses I couldn't quite afford, but that's the whole point of a mortgage. And I've never defaulted. I've always paid them back. I've been incredibly financially disciplined by behaving very, very, very differently than the way that Dave Ramsey recommends. Now, again, I'm not saying everybody should be like me. I'm just saying that Dave Ramsey's approach is one approach that fits a certain type of person, and it doesn't fit everybody. And I would argue that if you're ambitious, if you're loving life, if you want to enjoy life, and you're confident in your own future and your own productive ability, then I don't think Dave Ramsey's approach is the right approach. Right? Anyway, I did a whole personal finance show. If you are interested, just go to my channel and do Your Own Book show, Your Own Book, Personal Finance or Finance, and you'll find it. And I think everybody could benefit from it, even if you land up not following my advice. All right. When government drives up the cost of housing, it makes it impossible to survive on low wages, which is why New York and California aren't coming back. I mean, we'll see how bad it's going to be for California and New York and whether they're not coming back at all or not. Again, I think it's easy to view it that way, but I've thought that in the past, right? I remember deep recessions in California, like in the early 90s, where I thought, this is it, where home prices dropped dramatically and everybody was moving to Austin, Texas, just like today. And yet California came back really strong. Now, I think the politics are such that California is digging themselves deeper and deeper into a hole. But that can be reversed fairly quickly with the right kind of policies. The cost of housing can be reversed fairly quickly with the right kind of policies. So yes, government can drive up the cost of housing dramatically. But again, if you want to pursue your life, if your cost of housing is too high and you want to live in a bigger house and you want to have a higher standard of living, then move. It's still fairly cheap to live in Dallas. It's fairly cheap to live in Tennessee, which is a wonderful place to live. It's still fairly cheap to live in Florida. So get out of the places you don't like and move to the places where your standard of living can be higher. This is part of what I mean by taking control of your life, taking the reins of your life. Don't let government policy shape your life. Now, it might mean you have to move away from family. It might mean moving away from where you want to live. That you have to make the evaluation. Right? But choose. You get to choose the trade-offs. And don't let government policy bury you. Get ahead of it. Figure out where you want to live. Figure out where you can afford to live. Figure out where you can have the best future and move there. Again, people are so risk averse. People are so reluctant to make big changes in their lives. Blockchain technology is a wonderful creation. All the different minds currently working on it and figuring out best applications for it. I know it is going to make my life and many other lives better. I'm super excited about it. To the extent I understand it, I am too. I think there's some phenomenal applications for it. I think that has the potential to really change the way we do business, change the internet. It's going to take longer than we expect. It always seems to. But I think the amount of really, really smart people pouring money into it, investing in it, starting companies around the blockchain, it's very inspiring. It's very exciting. And yes, I mean, focusing on stuff like that is super motivating. And again, will lead you in the direction of, hey, life is going to be better in the future, at least in certain dimensions. And these hardworking venture capitalists and these hardworking entrepreneurs are buying us time to try to change the culture, try to change the world, so that we can have a bigger impact on that world. So, yeah, I mean, it's things like that. It's those kind of technologies. It's that kind of innovation. It's the venture capitalists. It's entrepreneurs. It's the tech that inspires and should inspire you to be optimistic, to be positive about the future. Thank you, Brian. That's very generous. All right, we've got a lot of questions. It's good. It's good. Feel free to ask more, particularly the higher dollar ones. I'm not sure I can get to all the questions, but if you ask a $20 plus question, I will certainly get to it. I see a lot of people doing $19.99. I don't know if that's to keep them just under 20, so I don't answer the question quickly. Like that extra cent elevates your question, although I tend to treat $19.99 like it's 20, like in this question. At 32, I've read nearly every fiction and nonfiction objectivist book or lecture and have achieved a successful career. 15, 20 years from now, I'd like to actively promote objectivist ideas. How do I start laying the groundwork? Well, I would definitely enroll as soon as you can in the Objectivist Academic Center of the Ayn Rand Institute, which has multiple benefits. One, even though you've read everything and you've listened to all the lectures, I think you'll learn a huge amount, because learning in a classroom is different than listening to a lecture. It's much more active, much more engaged. You have homework, you have questions asked of you. So you will delve deeper into the issues around objectivism. Two, some of the focus during the Objectivist Academic Center is to make you a better communicator. So it's one thing to know the ideas. It's a whole additional skill to be a good communicator of those ideas. So the OIC will, I think, significantly improve your ability to communicate. The third benefit is that you will get known to other intellectuals within the universe of the Ayn Rand Institute as a potential or intellectual, or somebody striving to be an intellectual, somebody striving to promote the philosophy, to be a kind of a cultural activist. And that will, again, create connections, make it easier, and you'll get ideas. One of the things the Institute is doing right now is doing seminars and workshops on how not just to become an intellectual activist, but how to make money at it, how to gain an audience, how to do the marketing, how to set it up in a way that grows your audience and gets you more followers and gets you, makes it possible for you to make a living doing it. So the things we've learned from Alex Epstein, the things we've learned from my attempts to do it, the things we've learned from other attempts to do it, and we're bringing in specialists, bringing in world-class experts, not necessarily objectivists, but world-class experts on marketing online and doing all those things. So you get that in addition to everything else. So I think the best step at this point is to enroll in the OAC and and get, and get really engaged with it. Right? All right. I'm reading some of the comments and I just don't get it. I'm losing it. All right. Let's see. So who asked that question? That was Landon. Yeah. So Landon, I definitely think try that. The other thing is practice. And the most important thing there is start a blog. Today the Substack and just start writing stuff. And start writing and promoting it and see what happens. And the practice and the forcing yourself to write out your ideas will make them more yours and will help you to integrate them and make you a better communicator as you do it, right? As you do it, you'll become a better communicator. All right. Again, just a reminder before you leave to like the show. Those of you who don't support the show already, please support the show. You can do so on a monthly basis at YaronBrookShow.com/support through PayPal, or you can do it on Patreon. You can do it a Subscribe Star. You could do it on Locals. But you can also do it right now, right here on the Super Chat. If you want to see more Yaron Brook shows, if you want to see more positive shows like today, then show me you value today's show. If you want me to go back to politics where the shows generate a lot more income than this show did and a lot more views than this show did, then don't support the show. And that way I'll know to shift over to doing more of the political shows. So that's the way it is. The shows that generate more income are the shows I'm more likely to do more often. But yes, Super Chat is available both to make a straight contribution and also to provide, to ask a question. All right. I'm just taking the questions that are not $20 questions and just doing them from the first to the last. Earlier you said, and there are a lot of them, earlier you said Americans have a bad view of vacations, eating, drinking, laying about. What do you think of that? What is your ideal vacation? Now, I don't remember saying exactly that, but I think you mentioned that I mentioned that too many Americans like to get drunk, that in a sense, escaping reality is what too many Americans enjoy. And it's not just Americans, it's Europeans as well. I mean, I don't get alcohol and drugs in terms of alcohol to the extent of losing it, right? But let's take the positive of what you're asking. What would a good vacation, what an ideal vacation look like? Well, I would say it depends. I mean, various vacations have different purposes. My favorite vacations are, there are two types of vacations in my mind. One type of vacation is just to get away from everything, completely forget everything, and in a sense be in a kind of a different state of mind. And the two things that I find effective for me to do that. One is, a beach vacation where I'm just on the beach and not thinking and not reading a novel, listening to music, not really engaged with the world. The other place I find that I get that way, but this would be a short vacation. I can only tolerate this for like 3 days. I find Las Vegas has that impact on me. In Las Vegas, a calm comes over me. It's like Vegas is like this materialistic place where no thinking required. It's all about pleasure, and it's about visual stimulation, and it's about good food and maybe a good show and walking around beautiful hotels and going to the spa and just it's nothing to take seriously in Las Vegas. Nothing to take seriously in Las Vegas. So I can do that for like 3 nights, not more. 3 nights. But I enjoy that, right? I enjoy that. I know some people hate Vegas, and I understand why they hate it. But for me, it is a good way. It's like going to Mars. It's completely different. It's completely different. And yeah, as Jennifer says, you can do stuff in Vegas that stays in Vegas and that you don't talk about on a podcast. Right? So, so Vegas, but beach, like going to Bora Bora and just spending like 5-6 nights in Bora Bora on the water. Now, the fact is that when I was in Bora Bora, there was a big crisis at the Institute, so I landed up being a video conference with the Institute the whole time I was there. But, my ideal, so that's one type of vacation. But that's rare for me. I don't really need that very often, and particularly now that I live in Puerto Rico, and I live on the beach. So I'm not really that interested in those kind of vacations. The kind of vacation I like today is going two types of vacation. One involves going somewhere new, going somewhere that has a completely different culture that I've never been before, where the people are different, where what's going on around me is different, maybe different colors, different smells, different food, different activities. Just, experiencing something completely new. I find that whenever I go to Asia, that's the experience I have. It's completely different. It's colorful in different ways. The buildings are different. The people look different. There's just a different vibe to the place, and I really enjoy seeing and experiencing different cultures. Unfortunately, I'm probably not going to go to China for a long time, and it doesn't look like I'm going to Hong Kong anytime soon. But I'd like to go. I'd like to go to Vietnam. I'd like to go to I wanted to go to Myanmar before the latest coup. I love, I've been to Thailand twice, and I love Thailand. It's just such a different place, and the people are super friendly. It's a land of 1,000 smiles, and people are amazingly friendly. The hotels are super luxurious. They just treat you amazingly well, and it's just so exotic and different and strange and wonderful and interesting, and I like that, and I like really different geographic locations. I mean, I loved the time when we went up the Yellow Mountains in China. I'd never seen anything like it. Kind of a geography that was, like those Chinese paintings with these sheer cliffs and then trails that in America they would never have, because one false step and you fall off 1,000. And I was so scared walking on those trails. My wife is like, just hopping along because she has no fear of heights. And I'm like, I'm clinging to the cliffside because I'm convinced I'm going to fall off. And anyway, beautiful. I love the geography of New Zealand. I'd love to do a road trip to Scandinavia, and that was the plan for this summer. I don't know if that'll happen, but my plan was to do a road trip through Scandinavia. I'd love to do the Norwegian fjords. So I like beautiful kind of geography. So I like road trips. I like eating at great restaurants. So 2019, we did 20 Michelin stars in 2 weeks, I think, on the coast driving along the coast of northern Spain and into Portugal. So I love eating at great restaurants. I mean, really great restaurants with interesting food and different food. So, and then of course, I love culture. So I love the old, and that you go to Europe for that, right? So Europe, I've spent time in Florence, I've spent time in Paris, I love London. So just hanging out, Denmark, Copenhagen is a great place, just hanging out in those cities. So any one of those, going to museums. Any one of those is a great vacation for me. It's stimulating, it's interesting, it's either calming in that it's a new geography, it's a different culture, it's a different vibe, it's a different environment, or, which I love, and I really, really enjoyed my trips to China, to Hong Kong, to Japan, to Thailand, to Cambodia. I love all those places, and then going to New Zealand for just the geography of it. And then Europe is mainly for history and museums, and I love that. I love the history, I love the museums. So, and just the getting a feel for what it was like. Greece, of course, Greek islands. There's an endless amount. So one of the things is Americans need to travel more. They need to see the world more. Generally, people need to do that. Save up some money and go tour around the Greek islands. You can do it pretty cheaply. Save up some money, go to Paris, go to Florence, go see Michelangelo's David. And I love South America. I love Rio de Janeiro because I think it's just so beautiful. It's such a beautiful city. You know, and you go over to a place called Niterói, which is on the other side of the river, and you look back at Rio, and Rio's just the most beautiful city in the world by far. The only place in Africa I've really been to is South Africa, and it's a beautiful place, but I haven't really traveled in Africa. I'd like to. I'd like to go on safari. I'd like to travel in Africa. So I would just say there's tons of places to go to in the world, and go try them out. Go experiment. Again, risk-taking. Embrace life. Embrace adventure. Right? I hitchhiked across the United States when I was 18. Just go and do stuff. I'm not recommending hitchhiking, but go and get a backpack and go and travel. Go see the world. Particularly young Americans need to go see the world. All right, what else? I've been working on a new product for beekeeping, which is my hobby. Last week, the leading honeybee behavior scientist asked me to send him one, and he thought it was an innovation. Living my best life. That is fantastic. And if there's a way for you ultimately to turn your hobby into your productive activity, into where you make a living, well, that is fantastic. So good for you. Congratulations. That sounds like unbelievably fun. Good for you, Bree. That's great. That's great. Many people get put off by objectivism because they think it's anti-family. I don't know why. How do you think they can be won over within this context? I try to explain how the state is the biggest threat to family life. I think that's the wrong approach. Forget the state. Objectivism is not about politics. It's not the primary. It's not the primary. The biggest threat to family life is unhappiness. The biggest threat to family life is altruism. The biggest threat to family life is unreason. The biggest threat to family life is lack of love. Right. So, objectivism is the antidote to all of that. Objectivism teaches you how to live as an individual, how to have a great life as an individual, and therefore how to be a good family person. It teaches you how to love. If you're not family first, you're anti-family. I call BS on that. I'm individual first, and I'm pro-family. And I treat my family as individuals, members of my family as individuals. So, objectivism teaches you how to live. And that includes how to live in the context of a family, how to love, what are required to love. So, there's nothing anti-family about objectivism, but family is not about sacrifice. Family is not about collectivism. Family is not about irrationality. Family is not about emotionalism. Family is just one. It's an important part of living. The family you choose, by the way, the family you have. But it's completely consistent with everything in objectivism, if you do it right. Why is Anne commenting on my father and my... I don't know. how people know about my personal life, other than what I've said, I guess. Maybe I've said some stuff. Earlier you said, oh, that's a vacation. Okay. Yuan, what are you reading during COVID downtime? Well, I haven't had COVID downtime. I don't know. I've been busier during COVID than ever. I haven't been traveling, but COVID created a very difficult situation for my business in terms of finance. So there was a lot of work to be done to get, to recover and to get the business, to sustain it and to try to grow it in spite of COVID. So there was a lot of work kind of in survival mode. I've been doing more shows. So I do 4 shows a week. That's a lot of work. Prepping for these shows is a lot. And, and then I've been doing lectures and interviews and all kinds of stuff online. So I have not seen a significant slowdown, right? Slowdown for COVID. Now, what I'm reading right now, not fiction-wise, is the Baroque Cycle. I forget the name of the author, but the Baroque Cycle. I'm on book 5 or 6, which is a very enjoyable book. I think I mentioned it in past shows. I listen to it, so I listen to it when I walk. I listen to it when I work out, and really enjoying it. It's about kind of the period of the early Enlightenment, the beginning of the Enlightenment, the scientific revolution, and it's really, really interesting. What is the value of leisure activities? What are your favorite to do, and how often do you do them at each stage in your life? I think there's a lot of important. Neil Stephenson is the name of the author. Yes, Neil Stephenson is the name of the author, and is the name of the author of the Baroque Cycle, and I'm enjoying it. What is the value of leisure activities? What are your favorite to do? Okay, leisure activities. I think they're important. Again, I think they're part of rest. Rest is important. I get a lot of my leisure, if you will, from aesthetics, from art. I do watch a lot of movies. I watch a lot of TV shows, and I get a lot from that. Today, leisure activities in terms of going to the beach. I like going to the beach. I try to go to the beach frequently, but it doesn't turn out that I go to the beach as frequently as I'd like, primarily because I don't like crowds at the beach, and I have time on the weekend, and that's when everybody goes to the beach. So if I can carve out some time during the week, that's why I like to go to the beach. I used to like sports. I with my back, and I don't do that as much, but used to like to play basketball, though not very good at it. Tennis, racquetball, squash, things like that. Racquetball in particularly I love doing, but with my back I can't do. Hanging out with friends, and I go to a lot of restaurants. So those are my leisure activities. I think it's important. It's important to relax. It's important to wind down. It's important to do stuff that is just pure pleasure, and where there's nothing beyond. I just enjoy this. This is fun. That's it, and that's good. And there's no cost. I mean, a little bit of monetary cost, but no spiritual cost to it. Is there an optimistic framing of rising interest rates? Could the shaky bond market make politicians more aware of the harm they can cause? Yes, I think one of the advantages of rising interest rates is that it becomes much more costly for the government to issue bonds, which makes it much more costly for the government to spend money. In the 1990s, one of the reasons that we got a balanced budget, people forget this, is that every time Bill Clinton proposed some new government program that we would spend a lot of money on, interest rates went up. The bond market reacted by saying, if you're going to borrow money to do this, we're going to demand higher interest rates from you. And then Congress wouldn't pass the thing because it was too expensive. And I think that the bond market can have a disciplining role in doing that, just like George Soros had a role in disciplining the UK and forcing them to acknowledge that the value of the pound was less than what they were claiming it was. So markets can do that. The challenge right now is that there is a belief that the Fed can counteract that. Now, I don't think the Fed can actually do that. And if the market really decided to raise interest rates because they saw more risk in the economy, they would, and nothing the Fed would do could stop them. But it will be interesting to see what happens. But that is that would be the optimistic phrasing of it, that where the bond market actually prices the true risk of U.S. government bonds, both in terms of inflation and in terms of failure, actual not paying it back. And if they did that, if they actually priced that, then that would be discipline over the government to prevent it from taking on more debt, which means to actually restrain government spending, which I think would happen. All right, this next question. Somebody's calling me on something I said. Oh my God. You said in 2019, the house is burning, the world is insane. At least in my lifetime, this is the worst the world has ever been. Did it get better since? No, it didn't get better since. I mean, some of the insanity is gone, and not gone, but some of the insanity is not as much in my face as it was in 2019. But the world has gotten worse. You know, certainly COVID has shown us how much worse the world is. So yes, I think in important respects, the quality of our politicians, the quality of the people around us, particularly on left and right, particularly vis-a-vis politics, not vis-a-vis their productive capabilities, the work they do day to day, the ability to be friendly towards you, but in the realm of politics, people have never been worse, I think, as they are right now in America. I mean, in terms of Americans, both left and right. So the Trump was an ugly phenomena, and the people who adored him represented something very ugly, and I think that was in my face in 2019, and I was being hounded by certain people on the show in 2019 that brought it home to me. And of course, on the left, you've got cancel culture, you've got postmodernism nuttiness, you've got critical race theory, you've got complete insanity, anti-reason, anti-individualism, anti-capitalism, anti-markets, anti-life on left and right. And in that sense, the left and the right are the worst they've ever been. Now, will that lead to a better world? Will that lead to a rise of the better people to fix it, to make things better? There are some early signs that maybe. I am subscribed to a bunch of Substack kind of blogs of people who are not active or as active in the past, who are getting more and more active and getting more and more engaged in the realm of ideas, who I think are reasonable. Not good, but reasonable. People you can have a discussion with, people you can argue with, people who reject the nuttiness of both left and right. And the more people like that there are, the better off we are. So I was in a particular dark place in 2019 because I was so focused on politics. If I focused myself completely on politics right now, I could get back to that dark place. But I repeat, you don't have to focus on politics. I do maybe, because that's my job. But you don't have to. So, yes, politically things are worse, and politically things were really, really bad in 2019. The world was insane. Clubhouse title, we're all adults here. It implies responsibility without putting those off who don't think of themselves as capitalists. Also gives the benefit of the doubt to those in the margin. All right, I'm writing this down. We're all adults here. Should I put a question mark at the end of that? I'm just kidding. I like that. I like it. All right, we'll have to do something. We'll have to do something. Jonathan never answered if he's interested in doing something with me on Clubhouse. I have a feeling Jonathan dots in and out of the show and only is here part of the time, so he doesn't get every reference I make to him. But yes, I'd like to do more. I'd like to do more of that. I've heard you speak about philosophical firebrand and ambassadors. Others speak of producers, wholesalers, and retailers. What type of philosopher do you think is the most needed today? I think we need philosophical firebrands. I think we need producers, wholesalers, retailers. I don't know what that actually means. What we need are translators of the philosophical concepts to people's lives in every realm of those people's lives. What we need are 1,000 new intellectuals who are engaging with the public or engaging with other intellectuals, but who are engaging with the culture on a regular basis. Right? So what we need are massive numbers of intellectuals. They don't all have to be philosophers. I'm not a philosopher. But we need them to be passionate. We need them to be ambassadors in a sense of living the good life. But we also need, they have to have the ability to retell it. Now, at some point, we'll also need people doing new work, translating this or discussing this with other philosophers, bringing it into philosophy as a field. But right now, there's so much that Ayn Rand has already done that I think much of what we need is the retailing, which requires a certain firebrand, a passion. I've called them in the past crusaders, people who really believe in the stuff, in these ideas and see their importance and see how crucial they are to human life and human survival, and are interested in fighting for that. Are you rationally optimistic about the growth of U.S. manufacturing? Have you ever visited a plant? I have visited manufacturing plants. I'm optimistic about the growth of U.S. manufacturing, but U.S. manufacturing has not shrunk. One of the great myths that Trump and others perpetrated is this idea of U.S. manufacturing in decline, U.S. manufacturing shrinking. Peter Schiff, I think, does this too, and I think it's all bullshit, BS. U.S. manufacturing has been growing for 40 years. U.S. manufacturing jobs have been shrinking, but actual production has been increasing. The amount of stuff that the U.S. manufactures is increasing, has been increasing forever. The amount of jobs has been decreasing, and the amount of jobs have been decreasing not because of China or Mexico, but because of automation, because of increased productivity. So I'm very optimistic about growth in U.S. manufacturing, increasing, continuing to increase. If government keeps its hands off, if we don't try to manipulate the market with tariffs and all kinds of other trade restrictions, then yes, manufacturing will continue to increase just as it has over the last 40 years. And if we allow for more automation, not less. And yes, the number of people working in manufacturing is actually going to decrease. It's going to come down. Because of automation, because of computers, because of robots. Here's a title for the Clubhouse discussion: The Positive Alternative to Being Woke, Individualism. Yeah, I like that too. And I copy paste that. Oops. Maybe we can have two different shows. See which one attracts a bigger kind of audience of non-objectivists. Right? Would you consider Arrival to be an optimistic movie in spite of the fact that the plot involves the death of a teenage girl? I saw it a long time ago. Yes, I think so. I think it's a movie that basically projects a positive view of the future. I have an idea for drone taxi promotion. Get a large field, get a drone taxi, charge a small amount of people to take a short ride, and a sort of theme park. I like that. That's a good idea. What's the objectivist position on polygamy or polyamory? There is none. There is none. There is no objectivist position on any one of those. There's an objectivist position on love and what love requires. I think both polygamy and polyamory are doomed to fail. I think they're unsuccessful strategies, primarily because a true romantic relationship requires too much energy and focus to have that focus distributed among more than one person. So I just don't think it can be long-term successful. But there's nothing in the core philosophy that I know of, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but that I know of, that rejects it. Try it, see if it works for you. I just don't think it does. I just don't think we're built for it. Just given time, energy, resources, capacity to focus, capacity to love, capacity to provide the kind of visibility that you need to provide your partner. But there's nothing immoral about it unless it doesn't work, of course. But you're not going to really know if it works or doesn't unless you try it. It requires a certain psychological maturity to even try it. It requires a lot from a couple to even try it, to figure out if it works or not. And that's often a difficulty. Often any one of those attempts collapses because people just can't handle it. But even if they can handle it, I don't think it works. And I've seen people try, and I haven't seen anything. Right. Dagny spoke to Cheryl about putting herself beyond the reach of those who hold her back. Yes. And the way to put yourself beyond reach is to build a life of success and happiness and self-containment and where you are independent of the people, institutions trying to harm you to the extent that you can. I mean, you can't completely because politics is everywhere, but you can certainly distance yourself from it, and you can find ways to protect yourself as much as you can from their impact. Thoughts on if you buy an IP to eliminate it from the market, should the IP be public domain? No. I mean, once IP is property, then the property exchanges hands. You should be able to buy that. You should be able to buy that, and you should be able to burn it if you want, or eliminate it, or take it off of the market. No, I don't think that just because you happen to like Dr. Seuss books, you have a right to violate the copyright holder's rights to it because they're taking it off the market. Property rights are property rights even when the owner of the property does something you don't necessarily like. I saw your 21C video. Was that campaign successful? What do you think about marketing these ideas to self-help movement? I mean, I think it's a great idea. 21C, I don't know. It's kind of a men's thing, men's movement. I didn't quite know exactly what it entailed when I went to do the talks there. I'm a lot less enthusiastic about that whole movement today. And then they turned super Trumpist and super almost alt-right-ish. And so I became uninterested. But there's a certain whole thing about the men's movement, and some of it's good and a lot of it's bad. And a lot of it treats women, has a very negative view of women. So I wouldn't do another 21C video today. But at the time, it seemed like a good audience, and maybe it was. I don't know. The talk was a good talk, and it's been really, really good to do to be on video, and people have found me through that talk. So in that sense, it's great. And I do think we should be marketing our views to the self-help movement. And if there are different ways to get in there, do it. Has AOI ever held back on culture wars to avoid left calling Rand a bigot or bringing up her SSI or other smears they use to avoid debate? No, I don't think we've ever held up on culture wars. We've gone all out on the culture wars. On issues where we had something we thought interesting, differentiating to say, where we had maybe an expert to say something about it. We don't go to war for the sake of going to war, and we don't go to war on everything. But we haven't tried to be nice to the left because we're afraid they're going to smear her. Some only view Rand as a fighter. She was primarily a creator who fought. Good observation, absolutely. A benevolent universe can't be sustained through perpetual conflict, absolutely. You've got to create. You've got to focus on your own life. You've got to enjoy. You've got to produce. The milkmaid wants to create a business selling milk and eggs and using the money for a good life. But she's immoral for showing off to other people. No, I mean, it depends on what motivates her. If the motivation is a good life, then she's small. If her motivation is other people, then she's second-handed. So, but if the motivation is a good life, then she's good. And if the moral of the story is she's bad because she wants to live a good life, then obviously the story is an evil story. All right. Al says that he just listened to my debate with John Mackey. So, and he says, good job. So the debate with John Mackey is available. It's available right now in audio only. You can find it on the Reason website, I think on Reason's website. So just look up Yaron Brook, John Mackey, Reason. If you want to see the video will be available, I'm told, next week. It's being delayed, but it'll be available next week. But the audio is available. It is being listened to. I will... Actually, I'll post it on my podcast. I'm going to download it from the Reason thing and post it on my podcast. So you'll be able to listen to the debate on my podcast. But if you want to wait, I will put it up on my channel on YouTube once it becomes available. Once the video becomes available. All right. So Forum Debate Podcast. It's available on the So Forum Debate Podcast as well. All right, I hope you listen to it. I hope you watch it when it comes out. I'm curious what you thought, whether you thought it was a good debate or not, whether I did a good job or not. I appreciate everybody's support. Thank you for supporting me on Super Chat today. Thank you to all of you, and thank you for those of you who support me monthly on YaronBrookShow.com/support. Remember, it's a trade, value for value. Those who are not supportive of the Yaron Brook Show yet, it's never too late, and to express the fact that you value what you're listening to. Those of you who are still on, who haven't liked the show, please go like the show so that we can do better with the algorithms on YouTube. And of course, don't forget to share. Sharing is the way in which this grows. And particularly the short videos that come out from my long videos, share those. That's a great way to introduce new people to the Yaron Brook Show. All right, everybody, have a great week ahead of you. I'll be back, I think, on Tuesday. Probably Tuesday, Thursday this coming week. Have a great week. Bye, everybody. And, don't forget, live well. Focus during the week on time to pursue personal values. And do that every week. Do that every day.